Rock and roll. Kia ora, everybody. What's up? It is Robett. Welcome to Robett Live. We are back at it. CEO, JUCY Group, the bro, Tim Alpe. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Well, all things considered, I'm okay. Yeah, it's a
We,
weird question to ask, right?
I
People
know.
ask how you going, and if you were going to be really honest, you'd be like, yeah, but got to stay positive.
But we'll jump in it. We are just talking about at least you've come fully prepared with the branding. We're going, we got the hat, you got the t-shirt, and then your answer was,
Well, my answer is basically I've got nothing else. Yeah, I always laugh and say to people, this business has to work, right? Because I'd have to go out there and get a whole new wardrobe, and it'd be a pain in the ass. So
yeah,
no, this
business
is me.
cards,
This is me
the
normally.
whole thing. I get it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Where you at, right? You at the pad? What are you doing?
Yeah, just based at home. We've had been for the last sort of 3 weeks, and yeah, it's a new experience for me to be honest with you. Just for sort of being based downstairs. Lucky enough to have a room downstairs. Actually behind me, I've got quite a geeky daughter who's sort of 14 years old and reads all the time. So this is her collection of books.
You're supposed
But
to say they're your books because you're the one with the brains. You're not supposed to. Obviously, it's like, mate, the new brains are the new weapons, mate. You could say they're like all sorts of books. He said, like, the future of tourism 3.0. You could say it's the how to survive flipping death blows to an industry. I mean, there's some good books back there.
oh, mate, there's some great books. Right? If you're a massive Harry Potter fan
Oh,
and you're
jeez.
into Nancy Drew and other things, no, I mean, in all honesty, it's yeah, I actually one of my things this year was to read a lot more
Yeah.
and to do more of that. So that's kind of cool. But I cannot take credit for these. These are very much my amazing 14-year-old daughter.
Um, Geez, what a world you're in right now. For the actually,
Yeah.
let's rewind back. So, for those who aren't aware of, Juicy's footprint, where you're at, and what you're doing, give a quick 101 of maybe what Juicy looked like a month ago. We'll start there because you,
Yeah. Like BC, like
yeah,
juicy
but no,
BC.
PC pre-Corona, AC after Corona. It's a thing.
Okay. AC and PC, perfect. Yeah, it's yeah, like so we're obviously a tourism business based out of New Zealand. Have been going for about 18 years. Started by my brother and I as a small little car rental business, off renting 35 cheap, pretty shitty cars to backpackers that came into the country and sort of evolved from there. And probably more well known now for our camper van product, which we offer across New Zealand, Australia, and into the US. But we also have an accommodation brand called JUCY Snooze, which is a pod hotel business that we operate in Auckland, Christchurch, and Queenstown. And we have a cruise company called JUCY Cruise, which does trips around the Milford Sound, the bottom of the South Island there. And yeah, about 400 staff. Pre-COVID, we had a 400 staff based out of Auckland, manufacturing as well of our camper vans, and sort of a tourism business very much focused on the adventure type tourism and experience type, very much on the back of a brand.
And AC, where are we sitting at the moment?
Yeah, it's a very different world, and I think just the suddenness of it was what probably
Yeah.
threw us. We did see, I mean, to be honest with you, coming from it was probably the perfect storm. To be honest, we had it was all going around quite nicely, and then the fires hit in Australia, and we were quite a big footprint in Australia, and that kind of took a big hit out of the sails over there. And then we had massive floods in Milford Sound that closed the roads down there. And then lo and behold, the coronavirus hit, and sort of overnight our business sort of went from this to nothing. And like all tourism businesses, actually like all businesses really affected by it. Sort of the instantaneousness was huge. And yeah, just hit us for a six, and sort of it's now been the last 3 weeks, really last month has all been around, what do we do, how do we get through this,
Mm.
and what do we need to survive and come out the other side.
Yeah, mutual friend of ours in the tourism game here, I think he had a couple hundred staff, and he basically had a 90% decrease in staffing pretty much overnight. 90%.
Yeah,
And it was
right.
like, and talking to him about it, and his kind of 2 cents was, it's everyone. You're right that everyone goes to stop. The problem is in the industry that it's in. When it's go again, the cafe can open and sell a coffee, but literally without the customer who's 4,000 miles away that can't fly, it changes the whole dynamic of how that actually goes to. When you knew it was going to go, was there a moment? Was it the briefing on the Wednesday when Jacinda at 140 was like, "We're going to four," whatever it was? Is that the moment that you knew shit was changed? What was the moment that hit and you're like, whoa, everything's now flipped and we're back to the drawing board a little? Did you have a moment, or was it kind of like you could feel something coming? What was the buzz?
Yeah, I think it's like you can look off in the horizon, you can see the dark clouds, and you can see and you kind of just assuming that, and we kind of saw it, I suppose, a little bit from January onwards in tourism. We saw that, things were changing. The Chinese market, which we didn't tend to get a lot of business from the Chinese market, it's not one of our major clientele bases, but we could see it changing, and we could see it impacting on some businesses, and we could see the sort of trend. And it didn't take a rocket scientist to realize. I was actually up in Europe about 3 weeks before all this hit, seeing all of our customers over there, and just being over there and seeing our customers in Europe and Germany and Switzerland, you could get a sense from them that things were happening. They could see it. And so, was it the massive whack that we anticipated? Well, did we get it because did we anticipate that? Probably not to that certain degree. I think that was kind of like, holy shit, it's just stopped. Everything just stopped. But we definitely did see something coming on the horizon.
Yeah, when you saw it, were there conversations at an exec level around, if this happens, then what? Like, where did the thinking go initially? Because obviously a lot of businesses have been probably the majority of businesses have been very reactionary after the fact, don't even think about it. If you had a sense of this a couple of months ago, what were some of those initial conversations like?
Yeah, I think for us it was. I don't think we ever had a sense of the gravity of it. I don't think we ever thought everything would just stop and we would go into this total mothball hibernation state. But I think we were already looking at our business. We were already looking at aspects of the business, saying, have we got have we got all these aspects right? Are there ways in which we could be changing the business model in different areas to focus differently and get a better going forward? So we were kind of doing a little bit of that already. I think what happened was, as soon as this hit, we were just like, shit. And to be honest with you, I mean, like all tourism businesses, I'm sure, it was about, we've got to move really, really quickly. And it's about survival. It's about how do you get through. And the hardest thing, I think, for us is, and for other tourism businesses that we've spoken to, and we've spoken to a lot of them, is really understanding what the future looks like. I think your reference to a cafe is a really good one, because you can kind of, you'll open back up and you'll know there'll be people out there now. People may not be able to spend what they used to, but there will be. But for us, a large part of our business came out of offshore. We know the planes aren't flying, and now it focuses on domestic, which is great, and it's great that domestic is happen. What does it look like? How big? How small? And then what does the future of international look like? And how do you predict that?
Yeah, at the coming out, when this started rolling through, by the end of the first week, there was this kind of patriotic vibe I got, where it's like a lot of countries are, we need to be able to look out for ourselves and bring it back home, and resiliency and blah blah blah. But so much of the New Zealand's economy is trade and export and tourism, blah blah blah. Then I was thinking about it, thinking there's going to be this weird dynamic of energy at the leadership level when they start to do these things back up, because simultaneously they're going to need all these international partnerships. At the same time, I need to look out for our own. And then I was thinking about, how did they then create, and I called it like hyper-local resiliency, where it was like they want to back the local. They want to go see Steve at the corner that gives me my coffee for that. They really want to triple down and actually go for local care with genuine relationships and depth, and potentially brand for price, because they know the impact it actually has. And then I was saying, okay, from a tourism side, I'm on the board of Figure NZ with Stephen Ingan Hall, who CEO of Tourism New Zealand. And I was just, and we had a quick chat, and I was like, it's going to go the other way, where it'll be like hyper-local activity, local activity, regional activity, national activity, then international, and going global. So it's actually going to, that is the plan as we go from 4 down to 0. It's going to go hyper-local to global. Is that in a nutshell? I mean, very simplistically, is that the thinking of the approach to most tourism-based businesses now, how they're thinking about rejigging their offerings for the future?
Well, yeah, I think so. It's definitely how we're thinking about it. How that time frame looks is still really unsure. Is it 3 months local domestic? Is it 6 months? It's Trans-Tasman. No one really knows. But I think there is a really good opportunity. I mean, we're forced into this, right, in the sense that this is a domestic play for the foreseeable future, at least. And how do we make the most out of it? I mean, I think, how do we, as a business, as a tourism operator, how do we work with other tourism operators, we have this thing called mates helping mates, and I think there is a really good opportunity in tourism to work collectively, and we've started having some of those conversations with, because at the moment I think that the first couple of weeks it was very much around survival. How do you make your business as lean as possible? How do you reduce your costs? How do you just get through? And now it's about looking at, okay, if you've done that, how do you then look about how do we make the most of the opportunity? How do we work with other operators? How do we collectively encourage Kiwis, New Zealanders, and then ultimately trans-Tasman, and then ultimately back to internationals to actually get out there and experience and see the country, whether it's in New Zealand or in Australia or in the US.
Yeah, to the exact point, you just got me thinking. Cameron George, CEO of the Warriors, was talking about he wants to have more horizontal collaboration with open comms, where, why can't they be sitting at the same table with these other different industries or verticals that are having similar challenges and look at all the different overlaps. And I was on a conversation yesterday thinking with someone who's going to be on the show in a bit, and he was saying now's the time for pure lateral thinking. Because whenever these box comes out of these rules, it's like, great, well, how do we then flip it around? Even earlier today we're talking, I was just had this thing, I was like, okay, well, cafes you can maybe go to for your takeaway coffees and stuff, but bars are probably kind of stuff because you're not going to be wearing a mask and having beers and stuff. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, why wouldn't you potentially flip those into pop-up shared workspaces for different staffing, and especially if certain businesses need all that staff there, but if there's social safe distancing at the workplace, there might not be enough square footage and meterage in a lot of these businesses. So you could actually get potential bigger businesses with budget or whatever partnering with bars for food and bev and cheaper space to actually just help get it through. I think I don't know if that's, I think that could happen, but it's thinking like that where it's lateral. So in the tourism space, what are some of the lateral ways that you're thinking about reusing existing assets, physical bricks and mortar? Like where's some of your headspace at for?
Yeah, it's a really good point, because I think it's very easy for us to go, we can build packages that feed onto the jet boating operation in Queenstown, or the rafting operation, but actually to think laterally and think about how do we utilize some of the assets that we've got, and like a lot of tourism operators, we've got lots of right now unused assets, and we've been fortunate to have good partnerships with the guys from Eat My Lunch, and they're now using our vehicles to deliver food around over this period, which is really, really cool. We've got a couple of contracts with customers who are using our assets, our camper vans, for essential services, parking those up, and they're using them for additional accommodation because people are living in areas where they need additional rooms. So that sort of stuff is really, really cool, and I think that's an opportunity as right now where we're in lockdown that really works. But going forward, I was talking to this amazing property down in on the Kaikoura coast yesterday, who've got this incredible outlook, and we're sort of sitting there going, well, we've got these camper van assets that may not be overly utilized in the next 6 months. What if we park those up at these properties, and they can be used as additional accommodation, not necessarily your traditional camper van model, but actually parked up and used, and we can encourage, because I think what's going to happen also is that a lot of New Zealanders will have their own vehicle, their own asset. So for our business, they may decide it's actually more affordable and better to use their own asset, but they still want to go and have these experiences outside of the home. So maybe they'll drive to a beautiful beach, and we'll have a couple of vehicles parked up there that can be used like an Airbnb type scenario. So just trying to work with other operators and stuff. I think you got to think outside the square, and I think this is a really good opportunity for innovation, because the way we traditionally, the German customer flies into New Zealand and goes to our branch and picks up the camper van and drives for 3 weeks and flies back out again. That's not there. That's not there at the moment. So how do we then create and we innovate to get different customers and to get our New Zealanders seeing our country? The amount of people that said to me, was when I was talking to someone yesterday, and they told me they were about to do the rail trail and it's been cancelled, right? They can't do it, which is a real shame. And I said to her, I've been wanting to do the rail trail for 6 years. I've been saying every year, I'm going to do the rail trail this year. And it's been 6 years I've been saying it, never done it. And there'll be lots of New Zealanders out there who will be doing the same thing. So, it's an opportunity now to get out and experience these things.
One of the ideas I was saying to Stephen is this idea of, the Great Kiwi Bucket List. And it's like,
I love that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, man, because if you're in that region, if you've got the Canterbury spot and there's the, you want to go to the certain pie shop or to this thing, and you could almost like gamify that through, so you start the local, regional, national. So many Kiwis would do it, and even just for cash flow, some of these operators. you could pre-stack it up to either buy it online, whatever, get stamped down, digital app, blah, blah, content comes out of it, and just really try and drive that whole thing through. And the same thing is happening at the moment, not potentially just with tourism, but for the problems that New Zealand has seen digitally, for all these kind of holes in the bucket of all these different things that have gone on. It's like, I just want there to be more of a collected, unified approach to building the solutions to these problems which we all have, instead of a million people going off on their other ways, which kind of ties in exactly to the next bit I was going to ask you about. Is when you're in a same industry, there's competition, a bunch of other players. In a moment like this, telcos instantly all got on the same thing, and Jason, Joel, and all the crew jumped in like, yep, cool, we're doing this as a collective. How has it been co-opetition wise between others in the tourism sector around the chats of what's actually happening? How has it been similar to telco world, or has it kind of been just like virtual, just drinking whiskey with straws, like
No, I laugh a little bit because we operate in Australia and New Zealand, and I always laugh in Australia. We compete with lots of players over there, but I always sort of say we compete, but if they could eat your young, they would, sort of scenario. Whereas, and I'm good mates, but whereas in New Zealand we compete, and we will obviously say we're better than our guys next door or whatever, and we might talk about each other behind each other's back a little bit, but ultimately we've got a mutual respect, and we actually talk. And I've been in our game in the camper van, our major game in the camper van game. I would be on the phone to our two major competitors, the two big players, on a pretty regular basis, and at least every couple of weeks, a couple of days would be texting, because I think we all see this as, we're all in the same boat here. This sucks. There's no other way to describe it. We all want these businesses to come out, because I think one of the biggest fears around tourism, especially our business, is that, well, not just our business, but tourism in general, is that if we don't get this thing right, and if we lose really iconic, great businesses that provide an incredible experience, incredible product, when this thing comes back, they're either not going to be there, or they're going to be under different management, ownership, whatever, and that may have a real negative impact on that customer experience. So I think there is a real desire to see, businesses get through this, and if we can help in any way, in competition, to be honest with you, to a certain degree, goes out the window a little bit. I believe right now, as much as we're as competitors as anything, we want to win. We want to get a contract off someone else. Ultimately, right now, when things are going really well, when the market returns, we want really good operators in there, because it impacts on New Zealand Inc. That's just sort of my view.
No, totally. And at a collective industry level, when you look at tourism, there's all these different touch points within it. And if you look at corporate structures of when they, want to come up for their different assets that they have in their portfolio, they're going to say, I want a bit of this, bit of that, boom, 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 and they string it together so it keeps the dollars cycled within it. Do you think there's going to be bigger plays happening in tourism, looking at these different touch points around tourism, NZ Inc. as a whole, to find out where these really weak, vulnerable ones are, which potentially not enough cash flow to get through, to potentially look at either consolidations or roll up within the sector? Do you see that potentially happening within the tourism space?
Yeah, potentially. I think there's, the tourism space is made up of a huge variety, whether it's the significantly big operators, which actually it's probably more made up of the mar and pa smaller operators that do an amazing job sort of in their local region providing their product, and they're like everyone, they're hurting, and they're hurting big time. I hope that the opportunities that the government are putting forward in terms of some of the wage subsidy, some of the things around potential loan options or whatever, can help these guys get through. In terms of roll-ups and consolidation, look, in some parts of our industry, there's an absolute need for consolidation. I look at car rental as an example, right? Hugely competitive, hugely saturated. Because low barriers to entry, multiple load operators. There probably is a need for it, and maybe that happens. But I think the challenge will be, though, there's not one person in our game at the moment who's not doing it bloody tough. And I think the ability to actually go out there and do these sorts of deals and have potentially the balance sheet to be able to do them will be limited at the moment. So, look, I hope we don't lose the opportunity, because I think there is some really good ways in which we could collaborate a lot better together as an industry and as competitors. Whether it happens or not, it's yet to be seen.
Yeah, the dollars you'd need to make a roll up of that size would be extremely significant. But you almost touched on a point there, Timbo, where you said, you know, a lot of these are small mom and pop shops. I know they're not going to have the cash flow to get through 12 months unless they extremely pivot to a lot of these things. So then you're going to be like, shit, okay, well, how do you kind of open back up for tourism if 70% of them don't exist anymore? It's like,
Yeah.
okay. So there's kind of a, I'm not saying it's a government bailout type of thing, which they're talking about in potential media, but do you think government, I just thought of that. Do you think, has government stepped into tourism heavy before?
No, I don't think so. I mean, apart from the likes of the airlines in New Zealand, which is a critical partner, right? It's a critical partner in terms of distribution and getting people around the country and into New Zealand. So I get that. I think there is talk around tourism, of the government looking at tourism, because you're absolutely right. That is the risk at the moment, right? In terms of just, if these guys aren't there, if they're not there when this comes back, what sort of experience is there? Or if the ones that are there aren't the right ones, that's also another major risk. So I think government definitely has a role to play in this. They're probably getting it from all angles at the moment, right? Because there's no one who's not.
Media's going hard. Did you read that spin-off article that came out? I flipping love Duncan and the crew there.
Yeah.
And it had this screen grab of all the players in media all on the same screenshot, and it had like sound bites of what everyone said throughout this chat. It is wild.
Is it? I'll go look it up. That looks awesome.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
But the point is, you know, they're going back and forth, blah, blah, saying, some of them saying government support this, that. Some of them want them to just collapse and crumble. But there's a difference between a bad business model that is flawed, which is losing money not because of Corona, compared to an industry which has been purely affected, that is a huge bottom line to New Zealand's GDP, that was affected by it. And I just would hate, I mean, obviously, I don't think either of us would last very long in politics, but it becomes very clear that the one is because of something, one is not because of it, but they both are important to.
Is that because there's too many skeletons, or just wouldn't last long? With
no, no, it's because we couldn't like have meetings for meetings, and we'd just be too loose, and our HR and PR crews would just be like, "What
That's
the
it.
fuck?"
Yeah, yeah, we'd be in serious trouble. Yeah. No, I think to your point around government support and how can look, I think there is a real risk, and I think the government need to assess that risk and think, you know, what happens if the experience isn't there? What happens? And I think
for a nation,
like if you're looking at, you know, I think it's the largest employer, it's one of the largest exports that we've got, if not the largest, and there's a real, and getting this country back on track post this now may take 6 months or 12 months, whatever it takes. But tourism is an incredibly important part of our culture and our industry and our country. And if we do not protect that, and it's not, I mean, yes, the businesses like the Air New Zealand and you know, even the JUCYs and other operators are really important, right? Employ a lot of people and bring a lot of people through the country, etc., in the airports. But it's actually the experience also from, and one thing our customers tell us the whole time, traveling around, you hear it all the time, you know, the best parts they ever go to is the pie shop in Arrowtown, where they got the pie. These are the things they remember, right? Or the Marapa Hike Company out of France, Joe. Like these small little things in these moments, and you lose those, and that has a major risk to New Zealand, Inc. In my opinion.
So there's one thing I wanted to jump on exactly on that point. So we're in lockdown, businesses stop. When it starts back off, anyone who wanted to do crazy restructures during this last month hasn't been able to, because they look like assholes for doing it. But right after this, they've got a pretty easy scapegoat vehicle for either total massive sweeping changes to the organizations and the rest of it. So I think there's unfortunately quite a bit of naivety to a lot of people who are currently employees of weaker organizations or average organizations, who are not wary to actually the conversations that are being had. And I was talking to a friend of mine who, 9 to 5, good dude for means well, but probably a bit naive to that industry and vertical with what the chats are having. And I literally said, I was like, bro, just a heads up, straight up, they're probably going to restructure and role like yours now, because they won't have the cash flow. They can blame feet through the door. They can blame boom, 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 boom. I think there's going to be and my prediction was, unfortunately, there will be a massive wave of restructures, shutdowns, and a whole bunch that happened after this, which are obviously going to bump up the employment numbers too. That second wave hasn't hit yet, and I think I just wanted to. I don't even know if I wanted your 2 cents on it, but maybe do you think that is possible / likely, and then maybe for some employees' perspective, where their headspace should actually be? Because I just don't want. I'm feeling a bit bad that there's a bit more naive. You know what I mean?
I totally get it. I think we're slightly different in our industry in that everyone knows, we've lost 95%, 99% of our revenue overnight, right? Everyone knows that in our game. And in our business, we've been able to utilize the government subsidy because to keep a large percentage of our guys on board for the next 12 weeks, because again, we didn't know what's going to happen, how long this is going to take. But our business model will be different, and I think it will be different going forward. It just has to be. It's just going to be. And I think the key around it is communication. And our guys, every single person in our business, we communicate with, constantly, and they all understand the predicament we're facing. They all understand that things are going to be different. I think if you ask them, that's the hardest thing I've found. The whole hardest thing. We've had to exit already quite a number of people. We've been able to utilize the government subsidy to keep people on board, which has been great. But a lot of people we've had to, we just didn't have a choice in the matter. And it's about survival and trying to get through so we can actually go back out, re-go again and bring these people on board again. So I think it's about, from my perspective in tourism, I think you'd be very naive to not think there's going to be significant changes. It just, you hear it every day from different players in our game. And there is the opportunity that you're going to have to reset, whether we like it or not. We have to reset the business, and we have to look at it and go, what does JUCY 2.0 look like in 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months time, when normality, well, hopefully sooner than that, normality comes back in. So, look, I feel for people. It's tough. I mean, we get emotional about this. It's
You saw John Maynard's from Wilderness Rentals. He's saying, he had to make similar moves with staffing, and he was ringing them up to see how they were, and then they were asking how he was.
Yeah.
And it's that level of like love and empathy and care within. It's so tribal and like so family, so plugged in, and just it hurts, man.
It does. I mean, the people that we had to unfortunately had to leave the business. We've been in constant communication with them, and just the responses that we've got has just blown me away. It's been, to be honest with you, it's probably kind of got me through to a certain degree. Like these, our guys in our finance team that we had one of our AR girls sent me this email, and it just blew my mind. I just stood there going, actually, this is what it's all about. And this person's no longer with us, and yet they sat there and said, how are you guys going? I mean, the amount of text. Man. I laugh at the amount of texts that I get, not just from crew, but from friends and colleagues and people that we work with, people that that we've worked with, and we still owe money to because everything's just stopped, contacting me going, Tim, how are you guys holding up? We're really feeling for you. The industry is really tough, and you sit there going, holy shit! People actually care. And I've got this whole idea around business that I'm a bit of a karma person, right? And I think if you treat people well, and if you treat your customers well, and things will work out and things will come back in the end. So gotta take positive.
Yeah, and it's so Kiwi when you just look at the energy and the love that has come up from so many communities to people, and even within commerce and culture and community, just the whole thing. It makes you like, when you were saying that thing around the staff is you feel like hope for humanity and the love we have for each other from New Zealand Inc. And then also like pride that you're from here, that this is how we react to situations like this. And it kind of shows someone was saying the other day about leadership. It's like, you're showing the true colors, that true colors is really coming out with leadership that's been bad, that's getting called out, with leadership that's good, with comms, with the whole thing. So it's quite, hope and pride. I keep balancing that. They keep popping up over and over.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have leadership is a really interesting thing, right? So you sit there and when things are going well, when it's all going well, when everyone's rah, 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 and everyone's happy, and, we're having drinks all the time, we're doing all the launching new things, and it's all really exciting. That's great. And everyone it's great for the culture of the business and everyone's positive. Actually, what I've found is the last month for me has been the hardest of my personal business career, hands down. And I'm not alone, and a lot of people have got a lot worse off than I do. Right?
And you're more positive than most. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think to be honest with you, maybe it's the drugs I'm on. No, maybe it's all the stuff that I'm taking. No, but to be honest with you, I mean, what are you going to do? You know, if I'm not sitting there positive, then what sort of chance have we got? I mean, it's not. We've got to be realistic, and I think there's realism and there's positivity. I'm a realist about this. I'm a realist person. I understand that we're in the fight for our lives. You know, we're in the fight. If this goes for 12 months, if this continued on like for we're not. In all honesty, we're not going to be around. You know, it's and I can sit there and try to bullshit the situation, but that's the truth of it, right?
It's a heavy sentence to say. That's a heavy sentence to say.
It's heavy to say, and you know, we're working with our partners and we're working with everyone else to get through, because we're a fucking awesome business and we're a great brand, and our customer experience, we have an NPS of 50 to 60 plus. Like, we've got these great things going for us, and you know, I want to see this business continue for a long time. I want to employ lots of people and have lots of people renting and staying with us and cruising with us, and we can do all that. And we will do all that. You know, I've got to take a positive approach to this, and we'll get there. But it's also an opportunity for us to look at our business and go, you know what? Maybe some things weren't totally right, and let's change that, and let's reposition, and let's refocus. And so I can only take it as a good opportunity to reset a bit.
Yeah, heavy lies the crown. You know,
heavy lies the crown. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it is true.
The you had an email EDM that came out, and I don't know if it was the right hashtag, but it had the wording in there, and it was like a local. Love your local. There was something.
Love your local. Yeah.
Love your local. Is that what it was?
Love your local. I think so. Yeah.
And I saw it and I was like, man, that's almost just like the layup for that whole hyperlocal New Zealand localized bucket list thing is like, you know, love your local, like your local. Yeah, I think it was love your local. I think it was. And I saw those wordings. I was like, okay, how do you use that? So within the co-opetition environment between either your business or all the different businesses, is there like an idea stream tab or a bucket that people's lateral thinking ideas are currently being collected for all the things you could do with assets and all the things what that new world of tourism, either for your business or for the ecosystem is like? Is anyone collating and curating thoughts from all levels of the organization?
We are within JUCY. So we actually had a phone call this morning, which we had on a regular basis on just collating all the thoughts that come in, right? All the how do we use these assets? How do we use it? And nothing's off the table, because you're actually in a position at the moment where we've never been like this before, right? We've never seen what we're seeing at the moment. So for us to, you know, we've got people saying, oh, you know, we could put, defleet the vehicle and do this and put it into courier vans and do this. We could do that. We can work with these different businesses. And actually, what's been really cool is, I suppose, historically, we focused heavily on revenue, right? Like all businesses, you know, it's how many bookings have we got today? And I can tell you how many bookings we got from Germany, or how many bookings we get domestically. What's the room occupancy of Juicy Snooze in Queenstown tonight? How many pizzas did we sell at Miss Lucy's? So we've always focused on that. And actually, what's really cool at the moment is there's no real focus on that at the moment, because there's nothing really coming in. So it's actually about focusing now on what are the ideas, what are the opportunities, where can we rethink this and actually try to become a bit more guerrilla focused. And it kind of takes me back to when we started this business, and we used to advertise on the back of backpacker toilets, because we knew people would be sitting there looking at the wall, and they'd have this big thing of, you can hire a car with JUCY, and it kind of takes you back to guerrilla, and it takes you back to thinking outside the square about how do we get business.
It's like, you've got infrastructure for it, and this is such a great point, Timko, because it's like you've got an infrastructure thinking, some resource, talent, and you got a passion, and it's like, okay, we've got all this formula shit, and we're like a chef. What are we going to make? What can we do? And weirdly enough, it's forced slow-moving cruise ships to become speedboats and instantly go to the cloud. But then this next wave is like, okay, well, now we're back over business. How does a big business become a new startup? And that rewires so many different ideas and thinking, and just that lateral, Johnny from accounts, Karen from accounts randomly throws against the wall, all of a sudden be like, oh, actually, shit, do we, partner with all the different pharmacies and do those deliveries for NZ Post? Do we, partner with the XYZ? Do we create a little commune as a 360 in these distant space outs and become these, remote communes? How do we, all that shit just starts, right? Which I guess, entrepreneurial minds, it fuels you.
Yeah, I think you kind of go, it's like you go back in time a little bit. Like we're a significantly sized New Zealand tourism business. We had 400 plus employees, and we had multiple jurisdictions and products, etc. And that's great. And we've been able to grow on innovation and product design, and it's been really cool. But I think for me personally, I kind of, maybe you get involved in the, you sort of become, I don't know, maybe you're not so much the creative juices a little bit, but maybe sometimes also people look to you for the answers on everything. And what I've realized is that I've got a shitload of people who are really smart, really passionate. They are our customers, and they're the one. And as soon as you sort of, it's like you kind of pull the string back on their back, and the next minute they're just like, and some of the stuff is like, really? Are you on what I'm on? But some of the stuff is like, holy shit, that's a really good idea. Go out there and talk to someone. And what I've also liked about New Zealand, and in fact I love about this country, is that, and I say it quite a bit, is that no one is off limits, and everyone seems to know someone. Like,
Totally.
I need to get in with somewhere because there's an opportunity to do this, and someone goes, oh, my brother's kids play hockey with that person, that, and before you know it, and you're on the phone, and they're like, oh yeah, and we kind of all we've always wanted to help each other, New Zealanders. I kind of feel like we always do, and I think now it's even more, it's escalated, which is that, look, if there's going to be a positive out of this horrific situation that everyone's facing, then maybe that's it. Maybe people are just going to be a little bit nicer.
I would definitely hope
not
so.
They're not nicer. Yeah.
No, but totally. The Hail Mary idea is one of the things I've been thinking about. Is in almost every single business, even if the CEO or the leader is the nicest guy ever, anyone beneath them in terms of hierarchy usually doesn't feel like they have a platform to be able to speak up and actually say that idea. And I've seen it happen in person in other businesses when literally the CEO walked out of the room and all of a sudden all this banter started happening. I'm like, guys, what just happened? And he's like, oh, well, go. And I was like, mate, he's there to help you do this thing. So it's actually going to be really, it's going to be good EQ test for leaders and leadership to see how they actually, communicate with all levels of the team to them, like, guys, we're in this together. Literally flipping Johnny on day 2. If you've thought of something now might be an epic way to do it. I need to jump in, and we've got a couple of things. Bro G says, keep up the great work, Tim. Keep up the fight. Creating domestic experiences is a key. E.g., the Fairly Pie Shop on a shred mission. It never gets missed and always gets talked about. Shachi.
Yeah.
And
nice.
Mabes. Oh, that's right. Mabes. Brett Maber from Power Farming Group in Hamilton. Power Farming.
And H.A. Milton.
Yeah, H.A. Milton. From Morrinsville Mafia says, how do I comment? And he texts me to ask you how to comment.
Right.
Hamilton,
He went to the same school as me in Hamilton, same boarding school in Hamilton. Yeah.
Say hi to Tim from me. So we got those.
Brilliant. No, great guy.
So we've got a couple other things. Birdo. Oh, Birdo. Hey guys, great chat. Tim, how do you offer tourism for the domestic market who have a can-do, do-it-themselves attitude without dropping the ROP by at least 33% to encourage Kiwis to take part in our own experiences across the New Zealand? Birdo, the New Zealand? Come on, bro. How can we encourage Kiwis to get on board and support the New Zealand tourism industry until the international market returns? Oh, the bro Birdo. Do you know this guy? Do you know Birdo? He's a champ.
Yeah, I think so. I think, for us, it's got to be about experiences, helping Kiwis get the experiences out there. Look, there's no question that the yields probably, historically, we don't get a lot of domestic customers for our camper van business, primarily around that summer period, A, because a lot of the European customers pre-book that product way in advance, and B, they pay a pretty high rate for it, and sometimes it prices the New Zealand Kiwi market out of the game a little bit. So there's a really good opportunity now for New Zealanders who've always wanted to take a road trip down the West Coast, or go up to the Bay of Islands, or do, all these opportunities over a period which they normally wouldn't be able to travel. And I think, but we've got to be realistic on yields, and we've got to be realistic on how we catered for that market, and the fact that it's not going to be your 3.5 week hire that you get from your Swiss customer, but it's going to be different, and that's okay. And we've got to make sure we listen to our customers, but we create experiences, and that's where I think the opportunity for us is to facilitate and create the experiences and offer things slightly different to what you might have offered to your international customer. And I think my idea around strategically parking camper vans in different locations is just an example of that, right? We would never do that for the European market, but for the international market, yeah. I think, for the domestic market, sure.
Rebecca, Bex Grace, does the growth opportunity in the domestic market present opportunities to play a stronger role with New Zealand communities for you, i.e. collective recovery, social value, as well as business value? Well,
yeah, it's a great question. And I think, yes, it does. I think there's an opportunity for us to engage and probably more re-engage with the domestic communities. I mean, we have lots of people who are in our vehicles and they're traveling around the country and they're going through different areas and they're staying in there, and they have an engagement on that level. But it's an opportunity for us to actually say to, cities down in the South Island or the North Island or the East Coast, wherever, and to work with these guys to say, help us pull together experiences. If you've got a campground there, offer us great deals on campground, encourage New Zealanders to get out there, work alongside us, because they're going to have to, the international market isn't going to be there until at least, the summer, and then it'll probably be Trans-Tasman, right? So let's be realistic, let's work collectively, and let's try to, but I think it's also up to the local regions to market, advertise themselves. I mean, Tourism New Zealand, Stephen and the guys there will do an amazing job promoting the hell out of domestic travel, and the Australians will do the same, because there's no money being spent offshore, it's going to be spent domestically. So we're all going to benefit from it. I mean, look, there is some risk, and the risk is, unemployment is a risk. If unemployment gets up to high levels, the ability for people to travel and be able to afford to travel is definitely going to be a challenge for people, and we're totally understanding of that. But we're also, New Zealanders are pretty innovative type people, and we want to get out, and after a month stuck inside, we will want to get on the road, and we can do it, and we can just do it differently, and we got to provide the products and price for it.
Yeah, the collective glue to navigate all the different opportunities and touch points within tourism, that's going to be critical. Like, even I was just thinking, you've got JUCY campers, they're traveling, hit up Mike Bennett's from Z, you're like, yo, if we have a JUCY, we can go here, use your ecosystem, plug that in. How do you, the weaving, whoever can be the commercial chef for this whole thing, that's going to be critical. And then also the redeployment of different, obviously, assets being used in different ways. Scott says, I think if travel agents want to have a future, they need to reach out to local tourism operators, help them market their products, create packaged experiences for a region, and everyone to pull their database together. It's perfect segue, Scott. Yeah, it's
perfect.
Yes.
Yes. I think there will be opportunities. I mean, people have been saying to me, they've been questioning, do you think with a lot of, with this current scenario, will that mean sort of entrepreneurs or people with ideas maybe a little bit hesitant in doing things because, there may not be access to capital, they may have been burnt on other areas. But I actually think the opposite. I think there's a really great opportunity for people to what do they say? Never let a good crisis go to waste. And I mean, I'd rather not have the crisis, to be perfectly honest, but there will be opportunities that come from it. And I think people who are able to facilitate those, whether it's utilizing technology or even just being just a simple scenario. And I think your example of Mike and the guys at Z is a perfect one, right?
Totally.
They've got great infrastructure. And we actually work with them already, and they're really supportive of our industry. So, but again, they've got charging stations. We've got a small fleet of EV vehicles, camper vans. How do we do something together? And I think this is an opportunity for us to reset, not just personally reset, but also professionally, industry-wide reset.
Jason Wright, extremely positive and insightful. Tim, we're totally in a lemon to lemonade moment in life. Jason from Kaitiaki Adventures 2.0. There you go, 2.0.
Cheers, bro. They run an incredible business down there, and so I think again, we've got to be realistic, but we've also got to be optimistic. And I would say one thing, it's interesting, we deal with the Australians, because we're obviously in Australia and we're in New Zealand, and the Australians I've got to be honest with you, people are going to hate me saying this. There's a very different mindset in Australia at the moment. There seems to be a very more optimistic mindset. There's a more, yep, it's going to be domestic tourism, but it's going to, maybe it's because they haven't totally shut down and locked down. Maybe they've sort of had a bit of a hybrid, but there seems to be a lot more positivity around what the next 6 months will look like domestically. And maybe that's just coming across onto me, but I could sit here and go, but I'm not. I'm actually going to sit here and go, you know what? We're going to fight like anything to get the business, to get New Zealanders traveling, and to get through.
100%. You definitely have a bro down with Stephen from Tourism NZ. I'm sure he's got, man, they'll be in the war room for the last little while. Geez, they're a startup now. But in a weird way, you'd almost instantly think that for the next 6 months, every single dollar that would be spent of New Zealand dollars from the government to advertise coming is actually going to be spent locally. So that's probably at least a startup, a kickoff of something interesting. What do you think you as a leader, you said earlier that this was the biggest challenge you ever faced in business. If you've done a bunch of crazy shit, what do you think you've learnt the most about not how you lead, but how you have been able to cope? What have you learned about yourself at that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one. I wasn't a very good sleeper before all of this, and I haven't improved much. I think look, I think actually, I remember John from Wilderness said, and I really took this on board. And for those who are listening to this, you should listen to his interview. I thought it was amazing. But what he said is that he actually said, "I'm going to miss this time, and the one thing he's really going to miss is his 4 p.m. scooter rides. Right? You remember? And I sat there and I got out of that interview and I phoned him afterwards. But I sat there and I thought, I actually don't think I've made the most of this opportunity. And it sounds like an opportunity, sounds stupid, right? But I haven't. I've been at home for 3 weeks and I've seen my kids less, and I've seen them when I'm working, or and I've been literally here, and that's cool because we're in a fight, right? We're doing all we can to reposition, to get through, to get this on. That's totally cool. What I also realize is this is a reset for me personally, and I can say, you know what? Yeah, it's a shit position. Yes, you know what? No one knew that this was all going to happen, and you got to address it personally. But I think it's an opportunity for me to rethink some of those priorities and how to handle it. And I actually have started to do that, and it's been awesome. It's been really, really cool. And and I've been just having that time and actually being able to sit back and go, shit, recess, but just don't. It's a bit like when you lose weight, right? And you lose weight and you go, yeah, I feel really good. And then after 2 weeks, you're back up there eating all the shit food. And so I don't want to go back there. I want to actually go, you know what? It's reset. It's better for me. It's better for our business. It's better for our family. And it's better for our people. So, yeah.
So it sounds like you're about to start reading Harry Potter books from behind you and start having like reading sessions with the fam.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm quite at that level yet, but not far away.
Are you going to get back into the tennis with Marty as soon as you get back in, or you put on the pies sitting at home? What are you doing?
No, I think I've actually lost a bit of weight, which is quite interesting, really, because I'm trying to go out. I'm trying to walk every day. I'm trying to go for a run and just I think it actually finds for me, it clears my head. I spend my whole time on Zoom and phone calls, and actually it's actually pretty cool. Like it's I've actually enjoyed the difference of it. I do miss our people. But what's really cool is people have become really creative. Like our New Zealand rentals business, their management team have a quiz night tonight, and they've got to dress up as their partner that they're sharing their house with, which is awesome. And
that is so good.
And they're having a quiz night with some drinks, and they're all stressed. No one knows. Some of them won't be here in 2 weeks' time. Some of them are, they've had to take massive salary cuts and all this, and yet they're going, we're still a great bunch of people, and we're still going to have a laugh, and we're going to get through this together. And so it's awesome. So you got to be creative.
The same way you were talking about before, how tourists will remember that pie shop and whatever. The moments that staff are creating now will create those exact same bonds for huge, like just tribal packs of loyalty with each other and to businesses through this time as well. And they'll be remembering, do you remember when dot, 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 dot. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
so many of those as well, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And we every morning at 10 o'clock we have a GLT, general leadership team meeting on Teams, and it's awesome, And I think actually the weirdest thing about it is we've been more disciplined, more structured in terms of our meeting and everything else than we ever have been, and none of us are in the same area. And the comments I'm getting back is, you know what? It's been great. We're actually talking more together. We're coordinating more. There's more ideas and more creativity coming out of it. So, yeah.
Isn't that weird that from a commercial perspective, there's a lot more efficiency being happen at distance, but through technology. But then through that same technology that's created distance, people are earning the touch of the human connection. Isn't that a weird thing?
Yeah, it is weird. It's totally weird, And I mean, I really miss the touch. It sounds a bit creepy, doesn't it? I miss the touch. Don't miss it from that respect. But I do miss. We're a very, we're a family business. We're a family environment. We scream, we shout, we get on, we hug, it's all that. And I do miss that. And I went to the supermarket last night and I saw someone that I know quite well. And I went up to nearly give them a hug, and then she kind of looked at me. I was wearing these gloves, which probably looked quite disturbing. I wasn't wearing a face mask.
Some OJ
shit. I was wearing some OJ shit. And I went out like this, and she was like, and I was like, yeah, I kind of missed that. So I'm looking forward to when
trolley
we're
bumps, mate. You just got a trolley bump.
Trolley bumps. Yeah, trolley bumps. Maybe that's the new thing. But no, I'm looking forward to normality getting back in terms of the working environment. But I will take quite a bit out of the last 3 weeks.
Man, on that note, what a great way to finish it. Rad yarning, bro. It's cool to see the good momentum. And mate, you're not getting much sleep because you flipping emailed me at like 2:30 in the morning or some shit.
Oh, I know. It's my wife's actually moved into the other bedroom with my youngest kid. And it's only because I think she was so sick of the middle of the night, because I get ideas in the night as well, I just kind of start thinking about stuff. But yeah, no, mate, it's love the chat. It's awesome. I just for any of those tourism operators out there who have got some great ideas, who want to partner with the Green Machine and we can do stuff together, reach out, guys, because we got to get through this together, and I want to see amazing people coming out the other side.
The man. Shot, brother. Stay out of trouble. I'll see you soon, eh?
Thanks, bro. Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye.
The bro. Tim Alpe. What a good bastard, eh? How cool. Obviously, you think about the exact time and the shitty circumstances commercially, but the leadership of energy, momentum, positivity, lateral thinking, ideas of how you can, reset and totally reframe and reimagine an entire business, how you're going to take this shit on, but being, as you're saying, being optimistic and also realistic, those two things. Really, really solid chat. And it's stoked to call my bro, stoked to see him leading with love and care and a whole bunch of Harry Potter books behind him. Good old Timbo. Shot crew, stay safe, stay smiling. See you soon. Deuces. I had whiskey in the other one, actually.